Good morning, everyone. Your morning weather briefing for this August 2nd finds that there are no major changes in the forecast versus what I presented yesterday. Temperature and rainfall outlooks this morning, certainly a lot cooler forecast for the next 10 days versus what the models indicated a couple of days ago. Then we are looking at a return to some above normal temperatures for the 11 to 15 day time frame. Precipitation wise, I think that the main thing to note there is that 11 to 15 day forecast still not overly wet, but the models are trending a little bit wetter all the time for that time frame. QPF discussion for the 1 to 5 day period, no disagreements versus what is shown. Those big rains in the southeast, much of that occurring during the next 24 hours. With regards to the rainfall in the Corn Belt, a lot of that rainfall is not going to be initiated until tomorrow night, and the biggest part of that rainfall is probably not going to be starting until late Sunday or Sunday night, so there is still ample time for this forecast to change. But versus what is shown there, I really have no disagreements with the type of rains that can fall. Coverage of rainfall in the Corn Belt probably overdone, but at the same time, I would fully expect to see some localized rains be even bigger than shown. For the day 6 to 7 time frame, this particular forecast mainly based off of the European model, though the GFS would also have some nice rains in the southeastern Corn Belt and into the mid-south. The difference on the GFS is that it would also have some additional rains returning to the far western and northwestern Corn Belt during this same time frame. Afternoon high temperatures yesterday, still fairly mild conditions in the Corn Belt with highs in the 70s and 80s. 18-hour rainfall totals, nothing real big to talk about on a widespread basis. A lot of the rain that fell during the last 24 hours in the border area of Illinois, Iowa, Minnesota, and Wisconsin. And you can see that on the radar estimated rainfall. And of course, they had some bigger rains in southeastern portions of the nation. Radar is pretty quiet this morning over the Corn Belt. Anything seen very isolated in nature as of early on this Thursday. As far as the forecast is concerned, not a whole lot of rainfall anywhere in the Corn Belt for today and into the daytime hours for tomorrow, but then we will be starting to see some scattered showers and thunderstorms developing in far western portions of the Corn Belt for tomorrow night, and that should be kicking off a period in which some portion of the Corn Belt will likely be seeing some thunderstorm activity on a daily basis for possibly the rest of the 10-day time frame. Looking at surface features as of 7 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, you can see that those models are in agreement on some widely scattered showers and thunderstorms at that time in some portions of the western Corn Belt. There you can see it indicated by the GFS model and some thunderstorms indicated by the European model as well. As we get towards 1 o'clock in the morning on Sunday morning, again, largely the same area, likely seeing some scattered showers and thunderstorms at that time. I think it's going to be for the Sunday-Monday period when some of the biggest rains are going to be falling in the Corn Belt. Note that there is some agreement on the European model and also from the GFS model that there will be a bit of a weak stationary front kind of draped across the central Corn Belt at that time. You can see that this would be ring of fire activity with some big heat indicated at that time in the southern plains. So don't be surprised to see Sunday night and again for Monday night. These are the surface features as of Monday night, again indicating that same frontal boundary kind of stretched across the Corn Belt with some big heat in the southern plains, again ring of fire activity. So right now I'm thinking that late Sunday through Monday night may very well be when some of the biggest rains fall in a decent portion of the Corn Belt. And given the overall setup, I would not be surprised to see some heavy amounts of rainfall in some areas during that time frame. Still would be some longer term rainfall chances as well. Looking at surface features as of 7 o'clock in the evening on Thursday, August 9th, you can see that both the European model and the GFS model indicating some additional scattered rainfall activity in the eastern Corn Belt. So there's 10-day rainfall forecasts from the various models. As usual, don't consider any of these models to be perfect. The actual outcome of the rainfall event is going to be a lot different than what any of these models show, but in general they all show that the next 10 days starting for late tomorrow night and continuing through possibly the end of the 10-day time frame, this will be a period in which there will be chances anyway of significant rainfall just about anywhere in the Corn Belt. Look for most of the rainfall to be in the western and northwestern Corn Belt through the end of the weekend, and then into central and especially eastern portions of the Corn Belt for the remainder of the 10-day forecast period. That's an unchanged outlook from what I said yesterday. As far as my favorite areas for rainfall, they would be Iowa, northeastern Nebraska, southeastern South Dakota, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Indiana, and Ohio. That is also unchanged from my forecast from yesterday. in that area, not all of the area, but in a good portion of that area. I think that 10-day rainfall amounts can be more than an inch, but localized totals seeing a lot more than that, probably some localized more amounts of more than 2 inches for the duration of the 10-day time frame in those areas. The least favored area for rainfall, in my opinion, for the next 10 days, probably going to be Kansas and Missouri. Again, that is unchanged from my outlook of yesterday. Temperature wise, it's still a cool day for this Thursday, but temperatures warming up for tomorrow. Then we are looking at above normal temperatures for Saturday and most of the region right through Monday. There you can see with temperature anomalies for Monday, temperatures across most of the Corn Belt running a pretty solid distance above normal. Look for a lot of high temperatures of 87 to 95 degrees in the Corn Belt for Saturday through Monday. Areas that are especially dry right now could have the potential for some 95 plus degree readings. You can see though that on Monday, cooler air is starting to work into far western and far northwestern portion of the Corn Belt and the northern plains, and eventually that cool weather will work across the entire Corn Belt. Look at your temperature anomalies for Wednesday. The entire Corn Belt looking at temperatures no worse than normal by Wednesday, and those normal temperatures probably lasting through the end of the 10-day time frame, which take us out through the end of next week. Longer term, looking at 500 millibars from the European ensemble for the 11 to 15-day period. You can see that in both periods they have extensive areas of above normal heights, so you would expect a return to some above normal temperatures in the Corn Belt for the 11 to 15-day time frame. Any dome of high pressure, though, still located in a southern or southwestern portion of the nation, so while the warmth would be above normal in the 11 to 15-day period, I would not expect it to be extreme in both time frames, both at the beginning and both at the end of the 11 to 15-day period. A northwesterly flow aloft in the Corn Belt, combining that with some above normal temperatures at the surface, I would still think that that would be at least something to keep alive rainfall chances in the Corn Belt for the 11 to 15-day period. And as always, my worry would be that the forecast turns out to be wetter than the models suggest right now. Internationally, still a decidedly drier than normal weather pattern for the next 2 weeks in the summer row crop areas of the former Soviet Union. A lot of that area is seeing nothing at all in the way of rainfall for at least the next 10 days. In Europe, any normal rainfall over the next 2 weeks just in eastern areas. Otherwise, a decidedly below normal rainfall pattern for the next 2 weeks for the rest of Europe, especially dry for the next 10 days. Looks to be western France, although all of France, Germany, and portions of western Poland probably looking at little or nothing in the way of rainfall for the next several days, and even rainfall after that in those areas being quite limited. Lots of above normal temperatures in the 2 week forecast for Europe as well. We saw a lot of 90 plus degree temperatures yesterday in western Poland, portions of southern and eastern Germany, and southern France. We will be seeing a lot of 90 plus degree heat in France, Germany, and Poland for today through Saturday. Then the heat confined to just France for Sunday and Monday, and then probably the warmest weather of the 10-day forecast coming up for the middle of next week for Tuesday and Wednesday, in which high temperatures above the 90 degree mark are going to be quite extensive that day. Look at your 90 plus degree highs for August 7th, which would be next Tuesday, across western portion of Poland into Germany and into France. Looks to be likely a situation where some portion of France will see temperatures of 95 degrees and locally even warmer than that. Note though that France will be cooling down by Wednesday, and we will be seeing that cooler air working into even eastern portion of Europe by the end of the 10-day time frame. So overall, your very warmest weather in Europe probably coming up over the next week or a little bit longer than that. And during that first 1 week period, temperatures will be running extremely warm, well above normal all across Europe. And you can see that the worst of the heat there on Tuesday, again, some potential for 95 to 100 degree heat that day in especially France. Decent, though not overly extensive or overly heavy rain is going to be seen for the next 10 days for the major spring grain areas of the former Soviet Union. The forecast continues to trend a little bit wetter all the time. In China, look at Manchuria there, near to above normal rainfall there for the next 2 weeks. All of the rainfall confined to Heilongjiang through tomorrow, where there will be some nice rains, and then even southern portion of Manchuria getting in on the rainfall for the weekend and beyond. Not a bad forecast for the North China Plain, fairly normal rainfall there for the next 2 weeks, although a northern portion of the North China Plain seeing minimal amounts of rainfall through Monday. Lots of above normal temperatures for the next 2 weeks across the North China Plain, and even Manchuria seeing some 90 plus degree heat, especially in the near term. Not a wet forecast for the Canadian prairies, especially dry for southern portion of that region. A lot of the Canadian prairies could really use some rainfall right now. We're really not finishing the growing season on a very good note across the Canadian prairies, as they have been dry now for a number of days. I want to note that we did see some fairly decent rains across a portion of the Western Australian wheat area during the last 24 hours. The forecast for Australia unchanged. Relatively decent rains over the next 2 weeks for some of the wheat areas of Western Australia, South Australia, and Victoria. Your driest conditions in New South Wales, although even there, not completely dry for the next 2 weeks. And finally, in India, no real changes on the monsoon. Generally below normal rainfall there for the next 2 weeks across a big portion of India. The driest conditions in the 1 to 5 day time frame. Some modest increase in rainfall for the 6 to 10 and 11 to 15 day periods. That's what I have for your Thursday. Everyone have themselves a great day.